Hare Krishna to all devotees.
Hare Krishna.
Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
Jai.
Shri Nityananda Chandram Patita Sharanadam Gauradam Tam Bhajeham Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shirvasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudire Nasta Praishva Bhadresu Nityam Bhagavat Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Sloke Bhaktir Bhavati Neshtiki Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 1, Gyneological Table of the Daughters of Manu. Maitreya Uvacha Manustu Satarupayam Tishraha Kanyascha Janire Akutir Devahutischa Prashutiriti Vishrutaha.
Prabhuji, you can read English if you want.
Yes, Mataji. Hare Krishna. So, Sri Maitreya said, Swayambhuva Manu begot 3 daughters in his wife, Satarupa, and their names were Akuti, Devahuti, and Prashuti.
So we go up to verse 11.
Akutim ruchaye pradat api bhratrimatim nripaha putrika dharmamashritya satarupanumoditaha.
Akuti had 2 brothers, but in spite of her brothers, King Swayambhuva Manu handed her over to Prajapati Ruchi on the condition that the son born of her be returned to Manu as his son. This he did in consultation with his wife Sataru.
Prajapati sa Bhagavan ruchistasyamanyanat mithunam brahma varchashvi paramena samadhina.
Ruchi, who was very powerful in his Brahminical qualifications and was appointed one of the progenitors of the living entities, begot 1 son and 1 daughter by his wife Akuti.
Yastayoh purushah sakshat Vishnurya swarupadrik Yastri sadakshina bhute Amsa bhutana paini.
Of the 2 children born of Akuti, the male child was directly an incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and his name was Yagya, which is another name of Lord Vishnu. The female child was the partial incarnation of Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune, the eternal consort of Lord Vishnu.
Anindye swagriham putyah putram vittatarocisham Swayam bhuvo mudayukto ruchir jagraha dakshinam.
Swayambhuva Manu very gladly brought home the beautiful boy named Yagya, and Ruchi, his son-in-law, kept with him the daughter Dakshina.
Tam kamayanam bhagavan uvahaya yusham patihi tusayam toshamapanno janayadvadashantmajan.
The Lord of the ritualistic performance of Yagya later married Dakshina, who was anxious to have the personality of Godhead as her husband, And in this wife, the Lord was also very much pleased to beget 12 children.
तोषः प्रतुषः सन्तोषो भद्रः शान्तिरिधस्पतिः इधमः कविर्विभुः स्वान्नः सुदेवो रोचनो द्विषत्.
The 12 boys born of Yajna and Dakshina were named Tosha, Pratosha, Santosha, Bhadra, Shanti, Idaspati, Idma, Kavi, Vibhu, Swana, Sudeva, and Rochana.
तूषिता नाम ते देवा आशन् स्वायम्भुवान्तरे मरीचि मिश्रा ऋषयो यज्ञः सुरागणेश्वरः.
During the time of Swayambhuva Manu, these sons all became the demigods collectively named the Tushitas. Marichi became the head of the 7 rishis, and Yajna became the king of the demigods, Indra.
प्रियव्रतोत्तानपादौ मनुपुत्रो महोजशो तत्पुत्रपौत्रौ निप्त्रीणाम् अनुवृत्तं तदन्तरम्.
Swayambhuva Manu's 2 sons, Priyavrata and Uttanapad, became very powerful kings, and their sons and grandsons spread all over the 3 worlds during that period.
देवहूतिम् अदातात कर्दमायात्मजां मनुः तत्सम्बन्धि सूत्रप्रायं भवता गदतो मम.
My dear son, Swayambhuva Manu handed over his very dear daughter, Devahuti, to Kardama Muni. I have already spoken to you about them, and you have heard about them almost in full.
दक्षाय ब्रह्मपुत्राय प्रसूतिं भगवान् मनुः प्रायच्छद् यत्कृतः सर्गस्त्रिलोक्यां विततो महान्.
Swayambhuva Manu handed over his daughter Prashuti to the son of Brahma named Daksha, who was also one of the progenitors of the living entities. The descendants of Daksha are spread throughout the 3 worlds. Hare Krishna, Nitai Gaur Hari.
Prabhu, you can carry on with this summary. Want?
Hare Krishna, yes. So Dandavat Didi and Dandavat to all the Vaishnavas. Nitai Gaur Haribol. We are reading 4th Canto, chapter 1, genealogical table of the daughters of Manu, and Akuti's son Yajna, verses 1 to 11. Akuti and her husband Ruchi gave their son, who is an incarnation of the Lord, to her father Swayambhuva Manu, because that was the condition Manu placed on giving his daughter to Ruchi, knowing their son would be an incarnation of the Lord. Later, Yajna married Dakshina, who is a partial incarnation of Lakshmi, and by whom he had 12 sons, also known as Tushitas. Yajna and Dakshina appeared from Akuti simultaneously, and as they were Vishnu and Lakshmi, their eternal relationship cannot be changed. Swayambhuva Manu handed over his daughter Prashuti to the son of Brahma, named Daksha, who was also one of the progenitors of the living entities. So, Hare Krishna, yes. So, it is explaining about the descendants of Swayambhuva Manu, and it is all self-explanatory, so we can proceed with the other verses. Hare Krishna, Nitai Gaur Hari.
Lena, would you like to read the English?
Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
कर्दमसुताः प्रोक्तः नवब्रह्मर्षिपत्नयः तासां प्रसूतिप्रसवं प्रोच्यमाणं निबोध मे.
We can't hear you, Lena. No, I know, but it's very, very faint.
Okay, maybe now
Yeah,
I'll
that's
try.
it. That's better.
Thank you. You have already been informed about the 9 daughters of Kardama Muni, who were handed over to 9 different sages. I shall now describe the descendants of those 9 daughters. Please hear from me.
पत्नी मारीचेस्तु कला सुषुवे कर्दमात्मजा कश्यपं पूर्णिमानं च ययोरापूरितं जगत्.
Kardama Muni's daughter Kala, who was married to Marichi, gave birth to 2 children, whose names were Kashyapa and Purnima. Their descendants are spread all over the world.
पूर्णिमासुतविरजं विश्वगं च परन्तप देवकुल्यां हरे पाद शौचाद्याभुच्चरिद्दिवः.
My dear Vidur, of the 2 sons, Kashyapa and Purnima, Purnima begot 3 children, namely Viraja, Visvaga, and Devakulya. Of these 3, Devakulya was the water which washed the lotus feet of the personality of Godhead, and which later on transformed into the Ganges of the heavenly planets.
So, descendants of Devahuti's 9 daughters, verses 12 to 14. Kardama Muni's daughter, Kala, who was married to Marichi, gave birth to 2 children, whose names were Kashyapa and Purnima. Hare Krishna.
अत्रेः पत्न्यासन् अत्रे पत्न्यानसूयातृन् यज्ञेसूयसशः सुतान् दत्तं दुर्वाससं सोमम् आत्मेश ब्रह्म शम्भवान्.
Ansuya, the wife of Atri Muni, gave birth to 3 famous sons, Soma, Dattatreya, and Durvasha, who were partial representations of Lord Vishnu, Lord Shiva, and Lord Brahma. Soma was a partial representation of Lord Brahma. Dattatreya was a partial representation of Lord Vishnu, and Durvasha was a partial representation of Lord Shiva.
विदुर उवाच अत्रे गृहे सुरश्रेष्ठाः स्थिति उत्पद्यन्ततः हितवः किञ्चित् चिकीर्षवो जाता एतद् आख्याहि मे गुरो.
After hearing this, Vidur inquired from Maitreya, "My dear master, how is it that the 3 deities, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, who are the creator, maintainer, and destroyer of the whole creation, became the offspring of the wife of Atri Muni?"
मैत्रेय उवाच ब्रह्मणा क्षोदितः शिष्टाव् अत्रि ब्रह्मविदाम्बरः सह पत्न्या यया वृक्षं कुलाद्रिं तपसि स्थितः.
Maitreya said, when Lord Brahma ordered Atri Muni to create generations after marrying Ansuya, Atri Muni and his wife went to perform severe austerities in the valley of the mountain known as Raksha.
तस्मिन् प्रशुन्नस्तबक पलासाशोककानने बार्भिः शवद्भिरुद्गुष्टे निर्विन्ध्यायाः समन्ततः.
In that mountain valley flows a river named Nirvindaya. On the bank of the river are many ashoka trees and other plants full of palasha flowers, and there is always the sweet sound of water flowing from a waterfall. The husband and wife reached that beautiful place.
प्राणायामेन संयम्य मनोवर्ष सतं मुनिः अतिष्ठद् एकपादेन निर्द्वन्द्वो नीलभोजनः.
There the great sage concentrated his mind by the yogic breathing exercises, and thereby controlling all attachment, he remained standing on one leg only, eating nothing but air, and stood there on one leg for 100 years.
शरणं तं प्रपद्येऽहं य एव जगदीश्वरः प्रजाम् आत्मसमां मह्यं प्रयच्छत्विति चिन्तयन्.
He was thinking, may the Lord of the universe, of whom I have taken shelter, kindly be pleased to offer me a son exactly like him.
ताप्यमाणं त्रिभुवनं प्राणायामेधसाङ्गिन्या निर्गतेन मुनिर्मूर्ध्नः समीक्षा प्रभवस्त्रयः.
While Atrimani was engaged in these severe austerities, a blazing fire came out of his head by virtue of his breathing exercise, and that fire was seen by the three principal deities of the three worlds.
अप्सरो मुनिगन्धर्व सिद्धविद्याधरो रगैः वित्तायमानय तदाश्रमपदं ययुः.
At that time, the three deities approached the hermitage of Atrimani, accompanied by the denizens of the heavenly planets, such as the celestial beauties, the Gandharvas, the Siddhas, the Vidyadharas, and the Nagas. Thus, they entered the ashram of the great sage, who had become famous by his austerities.
तत्प्रादुर्भाव संयोग विद्युतितमना मुनिः उत्थिस्थन् एकपादेन ददर्श विबुधर्षभान्.
The sage was standing on one leg, but as soon as he saw that the three deities had appeared before him, he was so pleased to see them all together that despite great difficulty, he approached them on one leg.
प्रणम्य दण्डवद् भूमाव उपतस्थेर्जञ्जलिः वृषहंस सुपर्णस्थान् स्वैः स्वैश्चिह्नैश्च चिह्नितान्.
Thereafter, he began to offer prayers to the three deities who were seated on different carriers, a bull, a swan, and Garud, and who held in their hands a drum, kusha grass, and a discus. The sage offered them his respects by pulling down like a stake.
Hare Krishna, Nitai Gaur Hari. So, Atri's austerities, verses 15 to 24. Anasuya married Atri. In a mountain valley, Atri Rishi, who wanted the Lord of the universe as his son, stood on one leg, performed pranayama, and ate nothing for 100 years. When a blazing fire came from his head, the three principal deities, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, appeared along with many demigods to benedict Atri Rishi. So Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh, they are known as Guna avatars. Lord Brahma is responsible for creation. And Lord Vishnu is responsible for maintenance. And Lord Shiva is involved in destruction of the planetary systems. Like that. And here in this verse, Atri Muni offered obeisances, Dandavat Pranam, to Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh. So this is very exemplary. We should be always offering our Dandavat Pranam to the Lord. Hare Krishna, Nitai Gaur Hare.
And this is just a pictorial version of that. So we go up to verse 33.
कृपावलोकेन हर्षद् वदनेनोपलम्भितान् तद्रोचिषा प्रतिहते निमित्य मुनिरक्षिणी.
Atri Muni was greatly pleased to see that the three devas were gracious towards him. His eyes were dazzled by the effulgence of their bodies, and therefore he closed his eyes for the time being.
चेतस्तत्प्रवणं युञ्जन् अष्टावित् संहताञ्जलिः श्लक्षणया सुक्तया वाचा सर्वलोकागरीयसः. अत्रिरुवाच विश्वोद्भवस्थितिलयेषु विभाज्यमाने माया गुणैरनुयुगं विगृहीतदेहाः ते ब्रह्म विष्णुगिरिशाः प्रणतोऽस्मि अहं वस् तेभ्यः कैव भवतामयोपहूतः.
But since his heart was already attracted by the deities, somehow or other he gathered his senses, and with folded hands and sweet words he began to offer prayers to the predominating deities of the universe. The great sage Atri said, O Lord Brahma, Lord Vishnu, and Lord Shiva, you have divided yourself into three bodies by accepting the three modes of material nature, as you do in every millennium for the creation, maintenance, and dissolution of the cosmic manifestation. I offer my respectful obeisances unto all of you and beg to inquire whom of you three I have called by my prayer.
एको मय्यः भगवान् विविध प्रधाने चित्तीकृतः प्रजननाय कथं न युगम् अत्रागतास्तनुभृता मनसो विदूरात् भृता प्रसीदतमहानिह विस्मयोमि.
I called for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, desiring a son like him, and I thought of him only. But although he is far beyond the mental speculation of men, all three of you have come here. Kindly let me know how you have come, for I am greatly bewildered about this.
मैत्रेय उवाच इति तस्य वचः श्रुत्वा त्रयस्ते विबुधर्षभाः प्रत्याहुश्लक्ष्णन्या वाचा प्रहस्य तं ऋषिं प्रभो.
The great sage Maitreya continued, upon hearing Atri Muni speak in that way, the three great deities smiled. And they replied in the following sweet words.
देवाऊचुः यथा कृतस्ते संकल्पो भाव्यं तनैव नान्यथा सत्संकल्पस्य ते ब्रह्मन् यद्वैध्यायति ते वयम्.
The three deities told Atri Muni, Dear Brahmana, you are perfect in your determination, and therefore, as you have decided, so it will happen. It will not happen otherwise. We are all the same person upon whom you were meditating, and therefore we have all come to you.
अथास्मद् अंसभूतास्ते आत्मजालोकविश्रुताः भवितारुङ्गभद्रं ते विश्रप्स्यन्ति च ते यशः.
You will have sons who will represent a partial manifestation of our potency, and because we desire all good fortune for you, those sons will glorify your reputation throughout the world.
एवं कामवरं दत्वा पतिं जग्मुः सुरेश्वराः सभाजितास्तयोः सम्यग् दम्पत्योर्मि सतोष्टतः.
Thus, while the couple looked on, the three deities, Brahma, Vishnu, and Maheshwara, disappeared from that place after bestowing upon Atri Muni the benediction.
सोमो भूद्ब्रह्मणोंशेन दत्तो विष्णोस्तु योगवित् दुर्वासाः शङ्करा संसो निबोधाङ्गिरसः प्रजाः.
Thereafter, from the partial representation of Brahma, the moon god was born of them. From the partial representation of Vishnu, the great mystic Dattatreya was born. And from the partial representation of Shankara, Lord Shiva, Durvasha was born. Now you may hear from me of the many sons of Angira.
Hare Krishna, Nitai Gaur, Hare Gaur, Dattatreya, Soma, and Durvasa. Verses 25 to 33. So Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva were very pleased with Atri Rishi, despite his not knowing which of them was supreme, as all three deities had appeared before him, because any of them can be known as the Lord of the universe, Jagat Ishvar. They smilingly benedicted him that he would have three sons who would be partial manifestations of their potency. Thus, from the partial representations of Brahma, the moon god was born, and from the partial representation of Vishnu, the great mystic Dattatreya was born, and from the partial representation of Shiva, Durvasa Muni was born. So ideally, in the path of Prema Bhakti, we have been advised by our Guru Varga that we should serve Hari Guru Vaishnava and do not expect anything in return. This is called a Niskam Seva. The purpose of practicing Shuddha Bhakti is to please Hari Guru Vaishnava, serve and please Hari Guru Vaishnava, and nothing is expected in return except more service in Bhakti, Shuddha Bhakti. So, however, in certain circumstances, some devotees are sort of have this tendency to ask in return. By performing the devotional service, they do ask. And our Gurudev advised, if we want to give, we give to Krishna, and we want to ask, we ask from Sri Krishna. In this way, everything is, as long as it is geared towards Sri Krishna, even if we are asking, it's not that bad. It's not bad. It's because our transaction is with Sri Krishna. In the same way, Atri Muni, he aspired to have the Supreme Personality of Godhead as his son. So it's okay. No problem. It's still bhakti. Hare Krishna, Nitai Gaur Hare.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for that. Yeah, because it says even for material things, ask for Krishna, not anyone else, because Krishna will give it to you if it's good for you.
Yes.
Yes.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna. So up to verse 47 now.
Mataji. षड्धात्वङ्गीरशः पत्नी चतस्रो सुतकन्यकाः शिनिवाली कुहुराका चतुर्थी अनुमतिस्तथा.
Angira's wife Shraddha gave birth to 4 daughters named Sinivali, Kahu, Raka, and Anumati.
तत्पुत्राव अपरावाष्ठां ख्यातो स्वारोचिषेन्तरे उतथ्यो भगवान् साक्षात् भ्रमिष्ठश्च बृहस्पतिः.
Besides these 4 daughters, she also had another 2 sons. One of them was known as Uttatya, and the other was the learned scholar Paraspati.
पुलस्त्यो जनयत् पत्न्याम् अगस्त्यं च हविर्भुवि सोऽन्यजन्मनि दहराग्निर्विश्रवाश्च महातपाः.
Pulastya begot in his wife Havirbu one son of the name Agastya, who in his next birth became Dairagni. Besides him, Pulastya begot another very great and saintly son, whose name was Vishrava.
तस्य यक्षपतिर्देवः कुबेरस्त्वद्विदविदासुतः रावणः कुम्भकर्णश्च तथान्यस्यान् विभीषणः.
Vishrava had 2 wives. The first wife was Idavida, from whom Kuvera, the master of all Yakshasas, was born. And the next wife was named Keshini, from whom 3 sons were born, Ravan, Kumbhakarna, and Vibhishana.
पुलहस्य गतिर्भार्या त्रीन् अशुत्त सती सुतान् कर्म श्रेष्ठां वरीयासं सहिष्णुं च महामते.
Gati, the wife of the sage Pulaha, gave birth to 3 sons named Karmashrestha, Varyan, and Sahisnu, and all of them were great sages.
क्रतोरपि क्रिया भार्या बालखिल्यान् असूयत रशिंसस्ति सहस्राणि ज्वलतो ब्रह्म तेजसा.
Kratu's wife Kriya gave birth to 60,000 great sages named the Valakilyas. All these sages were greatly advanced in spiritual knowledge, and their bodies were illuminated by such knowledge.
ऊर्जायां याङ्गिरे पुत्रा वसिष्ठस्य परन्तप चित्रकेतु प्रधानास्ते सप्त ब्रह्मर्षयो मलाः.
The great sage Vashistha begot in his wife Urja, sometimes called Arundhati, 7 spotlessly great sages headed by the same sage named Chitraketu.
चित्रकेतुः सुरुचिश्च वीरजामित्र एव च उल्बनो वशुभृद्ध्यानो धूमा शक्त्यादयो परे.
The names of these 7 sages are as follows: Chitraketu, Suruchi, Virija, Mitra, Ulbana, Vasubardhayana, and Juman. Some other very competent sons were born from Vashishtha's other wife.
चित्तिस्त्वा अथर्वणः पत्नी लेभे पुत्रं धृतव्रतं दध्यञ्चम् अश्वसीरसं भृघ्रोर्वंशं निबोध मे.
Chiti, wife of the sage Atharva, gave birth to a son named Ashvashira by accepting a great vow called the Dhyanacha. Now you may hear from me about the descendants of the sage Bhrigu.
भृगुः ख्यात्यां महाभागः पत्न्यां पुत्रान् अजीन्यनत् धातारं च विधातारं श्रियं च भगवत्पराम्.
The sage Bhrigu was highly fortunate. In his wife known as Khyati, he begot two sons named Tata and Vidata, and one daughter named Shri, who was very much devoted to the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
आयतिं नियतिं चैव सुते मेरुस्तयोरदात् ताभ्यां तयोरभवतां मीर्कण्डः प्राण एव च.
The sage Meru had two daughters named Ayati and Niyati, whom he gave in charity to Data and Vidata. Ayati and Niyati gave birth to two sons, Markanda and Prana.
मार्कण्डेयो मीर्कण्डस्य प्राणाद्वेदसि रामुनिः कविश्च भार्गवो यस्य भगवान् उसनासुतः.
From Markanda, Markandeya Muni was born, and from Prana, the sage Vedashira, whose son was Ushana, Shukracharya, was also known as Kavi. Thus, Kavi also belonged to the descendants of the Bhrigu dynasty.
ता इति मुनयः क्षत्तर्लोकान् सर्गिरभावयन् एष कर्दमदोहित्र सन्तानः कथितस्तव शण्वतः श्रद्धधानस्य सद्यः पापहरः परः प्रसूतिं मानवीं दक्ष उपयेमे हि अजात्मजः.
My dear Vidur, the population of the universe was thus increased by the descendants of these sages and the daughters of Kardama. Anyone who hears the descriptions of this dynasty with faith will be relieved from all sinful reactions. Another of Manu's daughters, known as Ashuti, married the son of Brahma named Daksha.
Hare Krishna, Nitai Gaur Haribol. Sages, children, verses 34 to 47. Maitreya lists the sons of Angira, Pulasya, Pulaha, Kratu, Vashishtha, Atharva, and Bhrigu. The famous offspring in these two lines were Brihaspati, Agastya, Kuvera, the 60,000 Valakilyas, Chitraketu, Markandeya Muni, Sukracharya, Ravana, and Kumbhakarna. So I can comment about two of these rishis. One of them is Agastya Muni. So Agastya Muni has been referred in one of the prayers composed by Vrindavandas Thakur in glorification of Nityananda Prabhu. And the translation is as follows. I eternally worship Sri Nityananda Prabhu, the root of the Krishna Bhakti tree, who forcibly swallows the ocean of repeated birth and death like the Agastya Muni that made all the oceans dry up by drinking only a palmful of water, who is a rising full moon, the friend of the night blooming lotus, which causes the ocean of the saintly person's welfare, their bhavas, to swell, and who is a sun whose brilliant rays dissipate the darkness of ignorance cast by the various classes of miscreants. So this verse is a glorification of Nityananda Prabhu, but some example has been referred to with the pastimes of Agastya Muni, who drank a palmful of ocean water and the whole ocean dried up. And second one is Markandeya Rishi. Markandeya Rishi, he worshipped Lord Shiva, and he obtained from Lord Shiva for the boon of a long life, very, very long life of 7 kalpas. So when these 7 kalpas duration is very long duration, and at some point there was this partial dissolution of the planet whereby there is universal flooding. And then Markandeya Rishi was, he knew that when there is this flooding, only in Navadvip Dham, especially Surabhi Kunja, there will be some land where he can step in. Otherwise, the whole planet was submerged with water, the water of destruction. So he was swimming towards Surabhi Kunja, and he got tired, and almost reaching near Surabhi Kunja, he was almost drowning. And then Surabhi Mata, when he saw Markandeya Rishi almost drowning, and she went to rescue Markandeya Muni, Markandeya Rishi. And then Markandeya Rishi was brought on the land, Surabhi Kunja, Surabhi, land where Mother Surabhi has been worshipping Gauranga Mahaprabhu. And then Surabhi Mata gives milk to Markandeya Rishi, who had not eaten for so many days. And Markandeya Rishi, ultimately Markandeya Rishi and Surabhi Mata, they are worshipping Gauranga Mahaprabhu in Surabhi Kunj. Hare Krishna, Nitai Gaur Hare.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for that. Okay.
तस्यां ससर्ज दुहित्रः सोदशामललोचनः त्रयोदशादा धर्माय तथैकाम् अन्यन्ये विभुः.
Daksha begot 16 very beautiful daughters with lotus-like eyes in his wife, Prasuti. Of these 16 daughters, 13 were given in marriage to Dharma, and 1 daughter was given to Agni.
पितृभ्य एकां युक्तेभ्यो भवाय एकां भवच्छिदे श्रद्धा मैत्रीदया शान्ति तुष्टिः पुष्टिः क्रियोन्तिः नतिः बुद्धिर्मेधा तितिक्षा मूर्तिर्धर्मस्य पत्न्यः श्रद्धा सुतशुभं मैत्री प्रसादं अभयं दया शान्तिः सुखं मुदं तुष्टिः स्मयं पुष्टिरसूयत योगं क्रियोन्नतिर्दर्पम् अर्थं बुद्धिरसूयत मेधा स्मृतिं तितिक्षा तु क्षेमं ह्रीर्प्रश्रयं सुतं मूर्तिः सर्वगुणोत्पत्तिर्नरनारायणावृषि.
One of the remaining 2 daughters was given in charity to Pitraloka, where she resides very amicably, and the other was given to Lord Shiva, who is the deliverer of sinful persons from material entanglement. The names of the 13 daughters of Daksha who were given to Dharma are Shraddha, Maitri, Daya, Shanti, Tushti, Pushti, Kriya, Unati, Buddhi, Meda, Titiksha, Hari, and Murti. These 13 daughters produced the following sons. Shraddha gave birth to Shubha. Maitri produced Prashada. Daya gave birth to Abhaya. Shanti gave birth to Sukha. Drushti gave birth to Muda. Pushti gave birth to Smile. Kriya gave birth to Yoga. Unnati gave birth to Darpa. Buddhi gave birth to Artha. Meda gave birth to Smrti. Titiksha gave birth to Shema. And Hari gave birth to Ashraya. Murti, a reservoir of all respectable qualities, gave birth to Sri Narayana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Hare Krishna, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol. So, children of Prasuti and Daksha, verses 48 to 52. Of Daksha's 16 beautiful lotus daughters, 13 of whom married Dharma, one married Agni, and one married Pitas. Hare Krishna, Nitai Gaur Hari.
ययोर्जन्मनि यदो विश्वम् अभ्यनन्दत्सु निर्वृतम् मनांसि ककुभो वाताः प्रसेदुः सरितोद्रयः.
On the occasion of the appearance of Narayana, the entire world was full of joy. Everyone's mind became tranquil, and thus in all directions the air, the rivers, and the mountains became pleasant.
दिव्या वाजन्त तूर्याणि पेतुः कुसुमवृष्टयः मुनयस्तुस्तुभुस्तुस्ता जगुर्गन्धर्वकिन्नराः नित्यन्ति स्म स्त्रियो देव्य आसीत् परममङ्गलम् देवा ब्रह्मादयः सर्वे उपतस्थुरभिस्तवैः.
In the heavenly planets, bands began to play, and they showered flowers from the sky. The pacified sages chanted Vedic prayers. The denizens of heaven, known as Gandharvas and Kinnaras, sang. The beautiful damsels of the heavenly planets danced. In this way, at the time of the appearance of Narayana, all signs of good fortune were visible. Just at that time, great demigods like Brahma also offered their respectful prayers.
देवाऊचुः यो मायया विरचितं निजयात्मनीदं हे रूपभेदमिव तत्प्रतिचक्षणाय एतेन धर्मसदने ऋषिमूर्तिनाद्य प्रादुश्चकार परुषाय नमः परस्मै.
The demigods said, "Let us offer our respectful obeisances unto the transcendental personality of Godhead, who created as his external energy this cosmic manifestation, which is situated in him as the air and clouds are situated in space, and who has now appeared in the form of Narayana Rishi in the house of Dharma.
सोऽयं स्थितिव्यतिकरोपशमाय श्रेष्ठान् सत्त्वेन नः सुरगणान् अनुमेय तत्त्वतः दृश्यादतः प्रकरुणेन विलोकनेन यच् श्रीनिकेतममलं क्षिपतारविन्दम्.
Let that Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is understood by truly authorized Vedic literature, and who has created peace and prosperity to destroy all calamities of the created world, be kind enough to bestow his glance upon the demigods. His merciful glance can supersede the beauty of the spotless lotus flower, which is the home of the goddess of fortune.
एवं सुरगणैस्तात भगवन्ताबभिस्तुतो लब्धावलोकैर्ययतुर् गन्धमादनम्.
Maitreya said, O Vidur, thus the demigods worship with prayers the Supreme Personality of Godhead, appearing as the sage Nara Narayana. The Lord glanced upon them with mercy and then departed for Gandhamadana hill.
ताविमो वै भगवतो हरेरंसा विहागतो भारव्ययाय च भुवः कृष्णो यदुकुरुद्वहो.
That Nara Narayana Rishi, who is a partial expansion of Krishna, has now appeared in the dynasties of Yadu and Kuru, in the forms of Krishna and Arjun respectively, to mitigate the burden of the world.
Hare Krishna, Nitai Gaur Haribol. So Nara Narayan Rishi, verses 53 to 59. The most famous children from these unions were the sages Nara Narayan, incarnation of the Lord, born of Murti and Dharma. And Nara Narayan Rishi, they appear as Arjuna and Krishna in Dwapar Yuga, in the Yadu and Kuru dynasties. So Krishna appeared, Yadu is Narayan Rishi, and Nara Rishi, who is Arjuna, appeared in the Kuru dynasties. So, and also in this passage, it is very, very important to note about Vandanam, headed by the demigods. When Naranarayan Rishi appeared, there was so much auspicious signs everywhere, and it brought good fortune. And the demigods, and headed by Lord Brahma, offered prayers to Naranarayan Rishi. So Vandana is one of the 9 devotional process of bhakti. So we are encouraged to practice Vandana, recite choice prayers. It is mentioned by Rupa Goswami Maharaj in Nectar of Devotion, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, that when we come in front of the deities, we need to offer choice prayers. And one of the choice prayers we can recite is the Brahma Samhita prayers. Govindam Adi Purusham Tamam Bhajami. All the verses recited by Lord Brahma in glorification of Lord Shri Krishna, Govinda. And as it is said in Prem Dham Deva Stotram, Brahma Samhita Krishna Bhakti Shastra Dayakam Krishna Karna Sidhu Nama Krishna Kavya Gayakam Sri Pratap Parudra Raja Sirsa Sevya Mandiram Prema Dham Devam Eva Nomi Gaur Sundaram. So this verse explains how the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Gauranga Mahaprabhu, when he was doing the South Indian tours, he went to the temple of Adikeshava after bathing in the sacred river. And there, the great sages handed over the old manuscript of Brahma Samhita to the Lord. And the Lord requested his servitors to make many copies. And it is said that in the first line of the Prem Dham Deva Stotram, it is mentioned that this Brahma Samhita is a gift given to us by Gauranga Mahaprabhu himself. So it has been very much emphasized that we should recite the Brahma Samhita prayers to serve and please the Lord. Hare Krishna, Nitai Gaur Hari. Thank you.
स्वाहाभिमानिनश्चान्यैर् आत्मजां स्तृन् अनिन्यनात् पावकं पवमानं च शुचिं च हुतभोजनम्.
The predominating deity of fire begot in his wife Swaha 3 children named Pavaka, Pavamana, and Suchi, who exist by eating the oblations offered to the fire sacrifice.
तेभ्यो न्ययः समभवन् चत्वारिं सच च पञ्च च ता एवैकोनपञ्चाशत् साकं पितृपितामहैः.
From those 3 sons, another 45 descendants were generated, who are also fire gods. The total number of fire gods is therefore 49, including the fathers and the grandfather.
वैतानिके कर्मणि नामभिब्रह्मवादिभिः आङ्न्यैष्टयो यज्ञे निरूप्यन्ते न्ययस्तु ते.
These 49 fire gods are the beneficiaries of the oblations offered in the Vedic sacrificial fire by impersonalist brahmanas.
अग्निस्वाता बर्हिषदः सोम्यः पितर आज्ञपाः साज्ञयो नञ्ययस्तेषां पत्नी दाक्षायणी स्वधा.
The Agnishwatas, the Barhishadas, the Saumyas, and the Ajyapas are the Pitas. They are either Sagnika or Niragnika. The wife of all these Pitas is Swada, who is the daughter of King Daksha.
तेभ्यो दधार कन्ये द्वे वयूनां धारिणीं स्वधा उभे ते ब्रह्मवादिन्यो ज्ञानविज्ञानपारगे.
Swada, who was offered to the Pitas, begot 2 daughters named Vayuna and Tarini, both of whom were impersonalists and were expert in transcendental and Vedic knowledge.
Hare Krishna, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol. Dynasty of Agni and the Pitas, verses 60 to 64. Agni had 3 sons and 45 grandsons, including Agni. They were all fire gods, who are beneficiaries of oblations at sacrifices. The Pitas had 2 daughters who were expert in transcendental and Vedic knowledge. So, Gauranga Mahaprabhu has brought the process of chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, which is known as Harinam Sankirtan. It is highly recommended in Kali Yuga. The Kali Yuga Dharma is based on Harinam Sankirtan, by the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Despite we are fallen conditioned souls, and Gauranga Mahaprabhu being merciful to us, despite our fallen conditioned state, Gauranga Mahaprabhu has given us this easy process of chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra always. And therefore, Gauranga Mahaprabhu is glorified with this verse, Namo Mahapadanyaya, Krishna Prema Pradayate, Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gaura Tvise Namaha. So, therefore, we should always chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra and avoid the 10 offenses. And it is said in one of the prayers, Goloka Prema Dhana Harinama Sankirtana. So Gauranga Mahaprabhu has brought this Harinam Sankirtan, which is Goloka Prema Dhana. It is coming from Goloka Vrindavan. It is the Prema Dhana, the wealth, the treasure of Prema Bhakti, through chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol. Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much.
Bhavasya patni tu sati bhavam devam manuvrata atmanah sadrisham putram nalebhe gunasilataha.
The 16th daughter, whose name was Sati, was the wife of Lord Shiva. She could not produce a child, although she was faithfully engaged in the service of her husband.
Pitarya pratirupe swe bhavaya nagase rusa aprodhevatmanatmanam ajahat yoga samyuta. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
The reason is that Sati's father, Daksha, used to rebuke Lord Shiva in spite of Shiva's faultlessness. Consequently, before attaining a mature age, Sati gave up her body by dint of yogic mystic power. Hare Krishna. Sorry for any mispronunciations, especially with the names.
Hare Krishna. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol. Sati and Shiva. Verses 65 to 66. Lord Shiva's wife did not produce a child. She gave up her body before reaching maturity because of her father's insulting her husband in spite of Shiva's faultlessness. So this is an introduction or the Leela which will be following in the future chapters of this Bhagavatam 4th Canto about the Leela, about how Daksha insults Lord Shiva, curses Lord Shiva, etc. And the consequences, because every action has a reaction. So if we commit Vaishnava Aparadha, and Lord Shiva is a great Vaishnava, it is said, Vaishnavanam yatha sambhu. So we learn that we should never commit Vaishnava Aparadha. This is the first and topmost aparadha in the 10 offenses to the chanting of the holy name. Vaishnava Aparadha is the topmost, and it is compared to the mud elephant offense. So when a mud elephant goes into a garden, it destroys and uproots all these vegetation. So this type of Vaishnava Aparadha will uproot the Bhakti Lata Bij. So we should, as much as possible, we should take shelter of Nityananda Prabhu and Gauranga Mahaprabhu so that we will be refrained from committing Vaishnava Aparadha. And with the Sudha Bhakti mood, we should continue chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra. And we should, instead of Vaishnava Aparadha, we should do Vaishnava Seva, as it is said, Bhakata Seva Paramasidhi Premalati Karamula. Means when we serve the Vaishnavas, this is a Prema Lati Karamula. This is the root of the Prema Bhakti Lata Bij. Hare Krishna, Dandavat everybody, Nitai Gaur Haribol. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Virendra
Hare
Prabhu,
Krishna.
for all your additional comments as well. Really good. And thank you, Anangavanji, for chanting so beautifully. And Lena, your pronunciations were really good. So some of the names are difficult, but you did well. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
So,
Nitai Gaur Haribol. Thank you.
So, Canto 4, Chapter 1, Ki Jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna.